Welcome to another episode of Breaking Battlegrounds with your host, Chuck Warren. I'm Sam Stone. Folks, we've got a great show ahead for you today, but one quick favor before we jump in. Leave Breaking Battlegrounds a 5-star review and share it with someone who needs to hear it. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your favorite podcast. Follow Breaking Battlegrounds on social media for more. As always, we're jumping right in with our first guest of the day. Former Arizona Supreme Court Justice Andy Gould. He is a partner at Holtzman Vogel and focuses his practice on appellate commercial litigation and constitutional law. Judge Gould, welcome back to the program.
My pleasure, Sam. Chuck, great to be on.
Great to be on. So when we have guests in, especially in the studio, we like to ask some of our audience members, what questions would you like to ask? So a question, I got some questions, and one was, how about your experience as a litigator versus a judge? How are they different, and how has that changed your impression of litigators and judges?
It's very interesting because I spent the first 10, 12 years of my practice as a litigator, and I was a prosecutor for a lot of that time. Then I was on the bench for 20 years, and now the last 5, I've been back as a litigator. So not a lot of people have that experience. As a judge, you're trying to get it right. You're trying to be fair. You're trying to make sure that both sides get to be heard. You are a neutral, or you should be a neutral. And when you're making a record, you're very careful. It's not the place to be bombastic, in my view. There are judges who have not followed that. And so it's that very much that rule of a neutral. As Chief Justice Roberts said, although I don't know that he always follows his own advice, you should be calling balls and strikes. And I think there's a lot of things that are important for people when they come in front of a judge. But the biggest thing is, will this judge be fair? Do I have a chance here in this court? Or has this judge made up his or her own mind? As a litigator, you're an advocate. You're representing an interest, a person, or an organization. And so you are presenting that viewpoint. And, you should try to understand the other side's argument. That makes you more effective. But you have to represent that interest. And so it's completely different. And I have to say, having done it before, than being inside the bench for 21 years and then being back outside of it, there are some very interesting lessons and perspectives that I have on it now.
I think, Sam, tell me if you think I'm wrong. I think 20, 30 years ago, it may have been easier. Say you could be a conservative or a liberal judge. I think it would have been easier then to try to be objective. I think try is a key word here. Do you think we have many objective people in politics anymore? I bring up some points. Like, I've always been a big proponent of Lindsey Graham when he confirmed liberal judges to the Supreme Court. It was the president won, the winner makes the rules, right? I'm a big believer in that. They get a pick. And I always people thought he was the devil for giving a Democrat president the judicial nominee that he wanted. And I just feel like that's disappearing, where we can agree on a set of rules. Doesn't matter if they're on our side or not, but if you're president, unless your nominee has done something criminal or as a communist, you should be able to have who you want.
I couldn't agree with you more, Chuck. It has changed. It really started with Judge Bork back in the late 80s, and it hasn't changed since. But here's the interesting thing. For the most part, conservative judges, if you want to call them that, aren't really conservative judges. They're following the law. They're following the Constitution. And they are called out for being biased for following the law. That's how far things
are. For having reading comprehension.
You read the text of the Constitution, you understand what the founders meant, and you are criticized as being biased for doing that. That's how things have really changed.
As well, it seems like there is a lot more publicity surrounding individual judges at lower levels below the Supreme Court. I mean, it's one thing I think people have always known who was on the Supreme Court largely. But you're getting a lot of judges putting themselves in the limelight, and I just look at that as a really deleterious development for the law.
I agree, Sam. And what you see are some of these judges who have, for example, made it their personal mission to defend the nation against Donald Trump.
Right.
And they quote Shakespeare and they quote their wives.
As one should.
Yes, if it's done properly. But they feel empowered and they enjoy doing it. You know, as a judge, you shouldn't be putting personal commentary in there. You shouldn't be putting your feelings in there. I know Justice Scalia said it. You've all heard it, but it's true. You are not a real judge until you rule differently than what you feel or you want. That's what a judge does. These judges completely give in to what they feel, what their emotions are, their personal preferences. And they do it all the time. And that does so much damage to people's image of the judiciary because they see it as unfair. They see it as skewed.
Do you remember the first case you had to rule against your personal feelings like that?
I do. And it was tough, but what I did is what you're supposed to do. You take the law and the facts. You start out in one area, and the law and the facts drive you to a different decision. In other words, it's not you. You have a function in the judicial branch to follow the law and follow the facts. And I had it happen more than once, and I had people criticize me for it. I'll give you one quick example. This wasn't the first time, but it's one that comes to mind. I was a Superior Court judge. It was a criminal case, and it was a leaving the scene of an accident causing death. It was a little boy. He had been backed over by the defendant. He did not see him. He just didn't see him. I'm not saying that's good. I'm saying he didn't see him. And so the prosecutor pled the charge down from, I think it was manslaughter, to leaving the scene of an accident with injury or death. So my range of sentence in that case was, I think, 2.5 to 5 years, something like that. And I very limited. And I imposed the maximum. And it was a troubling case. There were many, many victims in the courtroom. They didn't understand why I was imposing such a small sentence. And then I remember getting in the car and on the way home on the radio, be kind, you guys, by the way, the people on the radio eviscerating me for
Sure.
What kind of judge gives a guy 5 years for running over a kid? Well, the law required that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let's change subjects here. So the Hawaii Supreme Court did this inflammatory attack on the U.S. Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. Can you give our audience a quick preview what their ruling was and why they did it and how this is? I think this is, maybe I'm wrong, I think this is bad. State Supreme Court's doing this.
It's terrible. I believe it was Justice Kavanaugh. Others have spoken out. This isn't the first time this has happened, where there's a judge in Massachusetts federal court as well who's openly defied the Supreme Court's orders. And it's gotten to the point where the Supreme Court has said, you have to follow these orders. I had rulings from appellate courts as a trial court judge that I didn't agree with, but you have to follow it.
There's a process.
There's a process. And, everybody has a higher court. In my personal life, I have my wife. She is my higher court, and I must follow the direction of that court. But
so she's Supreme Court.
She's beyond that, I think. But this is an ongoing problem, and if this continues with federal district court judges, state Supreme Court justices, it'll break down the entire legal system.
Well,
I was appalled by it.
What makes it so scary, I think, is in one sense you've got those same people or the people that would support that action running around screaming about Trump's lawlessness, but I can't identify, we've talked about this, I can't identify a case where the Trump administration has violated a court ruling. They'll keep fighting until it gets to the Supreme Court or whatever, but they don't do that.
And Hawaii attacked it like they're trying to make Trump an emperor, and I can think of numerous cases where they've ruled against Trump, including birthright citizenship, which Sam and I talked about when he came out, like, you're going to lose this. Why? Because we can read. Right? It just was going to happen. It doesn't matter what you think the justification
That's
was.
one of those you have to change the law.
Yeah.
Right? Congress would have to act.
Well, we have that process in the Constitution, which is amazing, right?
It's shocking.
No one wants to do it that way anymore.
I have to be honest with you. The Trump administration pushes the envelope on the law.
Yes.
But when they lose, they follow it. I've not seen a pattern of going around and not following court orders and Supreme Court rules. They do have the right to try to bring a different case, work around it, but I have not seen that.
And the other side is screaming that they are doing that, and meanwhile,
They do
their
it all the
own
time.
judges are actually committing those acts that they're accusing the Trump administration of.
Well, we'll let you play professor here for a minute. Does the U.S. Constitution allow a state court to disregard federal law?
No, there's a little thing called the supremacy clause,
Right.
and federal law is supreme. Now, if it's an area that the Constitution or Congress has not legislated in, then states are free to act. But if they act and they occupy that area, you have to defer to federal law, of course. Look, this type of challenge is lost every time it has been made. The Civil War, Dred Scott, the Civil Rights Movement. States will lose on this.
You know, you bring up Dred Scott, the Civil Rights Movement. The sad part is we have a lot of people commenting on podcast world or social media who don't know what Dred Scott is, who don't know what the Civil Rights Movement has, and the lack of curiosity or civic historical knowledge is, I think, a big problem in this.
I agree. I'm paraphrasing, but I think St. Augustine once said, to love something, you must know it. You can't love America if you don't know it. And if you don't study our history, you don't know America. And these people that are commenting, they haven't read our history, how beautiful it is, how wonderful it is, so they don't know it. So, of course, they don't love it.
And our government was specifically designed for highly informed, engaged citizenry. I mean that the founders were very specific that's who they were catering to in crafting the Constitution.
You can't have a democratic republic without it.
Yeah.
Because then it's anarchy.
I agree. And what you see is more of a selective pulling things out of our history, the worst of things. Think about anything that you love and you care for, your spouse. If you focus on flaws all the time, that marriage won't last long.
No.
We're going to be coming back with more here in just a moment from former Arizona Supreme Court Justice Andy Gould. Want to talk specifically about a landmark decision in the Arizona Supreme Court about privacy around campaigns and elections. Obviously, you and I, Chuck, would agree 100% on this issue with where Andy fought for. This is a critical one. Democrats are using the power of the exposure, putting people out front, tearing them down for supporting basic causes, and that really changes the civic landscape. So we're going to get into that when we come back. Breaking Battlegrounds, back in one moment. Welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds. We're continuing on now with our interview with Andrew Gould. He's a partner at Holtzman Vogel, practices focus on appellate court, commercial litigation, and constitutional law, former Arizona Supreme Court Justice. But before we do that, folks, help us pay the bills here.
Thank you, Sam. So, folks, student loan debt, private student loan debt in the United States is worth $300 billion. Of that, $45 billion, as in B, as in bad, is in distress or default. If you're having problems and behind in your private student loan, contact YREFI at YREFY.com or call them at 877-400-9989. They'll do no credit check. They'll help you lower your payment, and you won't default on it, and creditors won't be chasing you down. So call YREFI at 877-400-9989 or visit them at YREFY.com and tell them Sam and Chuck sent you.
If you refinance with YREFI, you go a long way towards making that degree worth what you were promised it was, right? Cut that interest rate.
It's literally dropping. It's literally dropping. Like some people have private student loans of $1,500, $1,600, $1,900 and drops them to $800, $900, and they don't default on it, and it helps them out, and everybody's happy. I'm happy. You're happy. Brennan's happy. We're all happy.
Speaking about happy, let's talk about a Supreme Court ruling that Andy Gould here was involved with. Tell us what this case was and what happened, and where the status of it is all now.
So it started with this dark money initiative. It was Prop 211. It passed. And what the prop does is it compels disclosures of donor information. It's gone beyond. We've had disclosures on campaign finance for 50 years, but this is regarding independent expenditures, PACs, and it actually reaches up into monies that are contributed to nonprofits, C3s and C4s. And so the issue was, first of all, whether or not that violates free speech on its face. But really the salient issue, the big problem, is retaliation. And what we have now in America is if you contribute to certain candidates or causes, you will face retaliation. And that can come in a wide variety of forms, from very violent retaliation to social ostracism, problems in employment, business opportunities. And so when you disclose people's names and they give to campaigns or causes, for example, CAP was one of the plaintiffs that we represented in the case. They're a pro-life organization. And the genesis of this retaliation, where it really came to the fore, was Prop 208 in California. Believe it or not, in the early 2000s, you guys know this, California did pass an initiative to define marriages between a man and a woman. When the opponents of that Prop 208 learned about that, they found the names of the donors,
Yes.
where they lived, they doxed them, they did all these very terrible things. And so what makes it even worse, beyond the acrimony of politics today, is the internet, social media.
Right.
So that was the core of the issue. And the court issued a split ruling. They didn't strike down the statute on its face, but they did find that we had made a sufficient claim for retaliation, and they sent it back to the court, the Superior Court, for more hearings.
I think one thing, and I'm so glad you do it, because I donate a lot, and for example, I'm investing in a company right now, and we're applying for this license, and the firm had to spend a lot of money to figure out how to mask my interests so it didn't cause a political firestorm with the license, which is just ridiculous. Now, I do think things, fortunately, this is not legal or changed, like the Sophie Cunningham thing yesterday. I just read here, she sold out all her Adidas shoes last night. I mean, people are just done with it, a lot of people. But still, progressives like to do this. And that brings me up to a point about them endangering judges, the Supreme Court. I mean, when you're a Supreme Court justice, did you get lots of threats?
I got more threats as a trial court judge. I had some on the Supreme Court. You know, the day we did the oral argument was September 11th. The day before, Charlie Kirk was assassinated, which was really Exhibit A.
Right.
Of what happens when a person speaks their beliefs and the type of violence that people face. I did have threats and things as a trial court judge. On the Supreme Court, the only case where I really faced that the most directly was when I issued the brush and nib decision. And I had some very strange comments and things that came my way. But, you know, I've been very concerned about the attacks on the conservative justices on the Supreme Court. Look, here's the bottom line. These justices, these judges did not sign up for that. They're trying to do their job. And when you start to physically threaten and intimidate them and their families, again, you're breaking the system. And the Biden administration's response to that was pathetic.
Pathetic is being exceptionally kind. I mean, that was an incredibly dangerous situation. They put our Supreme Court justices' lives at risk with their response. I couldn't believe that at the time.
I just don't think there could be tolerance on it.
No.
My kids laugh at me when I watch criminal procedure shows, because the first 5 minutes I go, oh, just shoot them. And they go, Dad, there'd be no show left here. You're just shooting everybody. But when
Chuck, I don't know if I can agree with that procedural approach.
Well, I may be calling you one day because I'm like, just shoot them.
Okay. This statement on this show would not help you in your defense, I can tell you that.
Chuck's definition of the death penalty is a bit broader than most of society's.
Probably something from like Assyria 3,000 years ago.
Pretty close. Pretty close.
But these people doing this, the punishment needs to be strict.
Oh, I agree.
I mean, it needs to stop.
And I do want to make a point about this issue on the Supreme Court case. There is a place for anonymity in political speech.
Yes.
We don't have to disclose everything. If you recall, the Federalist Papers were written anonymously. If the public had known at that time that Alexander Hamilton was writing some of the Federalist Papers, the Constitution would have never passed. And we've had that need for many, many years. There's a case, NAACP versus Alabama. You probably know that case, Chuck. Maybe you do, Sam, as well. And that was where the state of Alabama tried to out the donor list for the NAACP. Well, what do you think would have happened to the NAACP if those donors had been disclosed in Alabama?
Would have been
So we have to be able to protect that. And I think there is a place for anonymous speech. And Justice Thomas has spoken about this quite a bit. Why? Well, I think in part because he's been the victim of attacks for 36 years. So he understands how ugly it is. And disclosure is fine, knowing who donors are fine, but we have to draw some lines to allow people to participate politically anonymously as well.
Correct.
I think, we don't have time to get into this today. We have just a minute left in this segment, but I think this ties into what is sort of a broader attack on privacy, where government surveillance and private surveillance via internet and all the people tracking everything everyone does online is starting to become a really concentrated violation of the Fourth Amendment.
I agree. And what we see in the Fourth Amendment is technology is pushing the limits of it. We had the infrared imaging of cars to look for drug smuggling. Then we had the issue with drones. A drone doesn't have to step on your property. It can observe you from...
And see into your house. With the cameras it has,
So when is your privacy protected?
Very, very much almost never anymore. It seems like that at least. That's pretty scary. Andrew Gould, thank you so much for joining us today. We always love having you on the program. Would look forward to having you back again very soon. You're one of the best legal minds in the state.
Oh, thank you so much, Sam. My pleasure.
Folks, Breaking Battlegrounds coming back in just a moment with more. Welcome back to B Time.
Murder, mystery, secrets untold. The truth gets set free when B gets a hold. Crimes where killers roam off free, or even ones where they get caught at the scene. From cold case files to headline news, she's breaking it all down just for you. So come take a seat, don't miss a beat. These crime corners where the stories go deep.
All right, B, what do we got?
All right, well, we got an active manhunt going on right now. Well, actually, I should say a woman hunt because it's 2026. But
wait, we got a woman hunt going on?
Yeah, we got a woman hunt going on.
That sounds like most of the high schools I knew.
What did she do?
Okay.
Yeah.
What did she do?
Okay, so we got Isabella Rose Johnson, a 38-year-old woman. She's described as being very, very manipulative, but she murdered Jason Colehart, who was 43. She remains a fugitive, and authorities believe she's been using multiple aliases to get away. Now, there have already been 5 people who helped this woman run from the police, and those 5 people are all in jail now. So if that teaches you one thing, don't help a felon. But she killed this man. He went missing in June 25th, 2026. So it's been pretty recent.
Yeah.
And they filed reports, and by the time they were looking for her as a suspect because they were together in a relationship, she disappeared and they could not find her. But they found him underneath a vehicle parked above with concrete poured over him and a zip tie tied around his neck.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
And where did this happen at?
Oh.
This happened... I actually did not find that out.
Okay, go ahead. Continue.
It's in like 3 states right now because she's running from Georgia to Florida to Alabama. So she's like all over the southern little part of the U.S. right now making a break for it. And there's an $11,000 reward if she is found. So if you're looking for a quick little payout, get your bounty hunting on and
By
go
the way,
find her.
Before you continue,
So
I would like you to look up something for next week. How did they come up with $11,000 reward?
Yeah, they've been increasing it. It didn't start at that.
Yeah, that's a weird number.
Yeah.
But you know what? Here's the thing I've learned about this. It's really hard to collect those rewards. They run you through years. It should be very easy. They capture the person, they hand you the cash.
Yeah, Brendan called. This is where this woman's at.
Yeah.
Say, Brendan, we're going to wire you the money.
Right.
Yeah, I better be getting my money, or else there's
Seriously,
another person missing.
It should be like the clearinghouse thing where they show up on your doorstep with a giant oversized check the next day.
No, exactly. Like, you just did the work of the people who couldn't do the work because they can't find her. And I mean, she's got like 5 different aliases. There's been
So she's always been a character.
She's always been a character.
You just don't come up with aliases one day.
No, right?
No,
People
and she's clearly smart. That's I mean,
very manipulative.
yeah.
And I don't want to say all women are manipulative because some of us are angels, but there's some women who can be pretty manipulative.
As B says this, folks, I have a suspicion that she has perfected wrapping men around her finger
She got 5 people to help her. Now they're all in jail while she's running.
Yeah, no,
back.
seriously, that is an impressive feat of feline wiles.
Yeah.
So if you guys run into a Harley, a Jessica Elaine Bowman, a Jessica Elaine Thrush or Thrash with a U and an A Jessica Dowdy, or a Denise. Denise hasn't been confirmed to be an alias, but it's been thrown around a little bit.
I don't know. Denise doesn't seem like the others. It seems like she was going for,
Denise seems like her own personality.
Yeah.
So I guess with her running and the aliases and the 5 people helping her. Well, she told the 5 people too she was a victim of abuse. So my theory is this man might have abused her. She might have just lost it on him.
Well, by the way, it is a good way to get somebody to help you because you hear that and you think, well, of course they were. I mean, you really don't question it a lot.
As a male, you have a protector's instinct.
Yes, 100%.
You should.
Easy to dupe people on that.
Yeah.
She knows how to work it with that.
Well, this is why, and one of my cop friends years ago was saying that the toughest cases they have involve female sociopaths.
Yeah.
Because they're very smart, very manipulative. They have gotten through all these years without being detected for what they are, which means they are great at deception.
And also women don't stop thinking.
No.
Right. So they play, I mean, they don't. So
this
they'll play,
brain goes.
So they'll play all these scenarios in their head, right?
Yeah.
Right.
This is the type of woman too where it's like, I feel like when you're that manipulative, the natural instincts of a man, the natural instincts of a woman, and you know exactly how to capitalize off that and use that to your benefit, and she's doing it.
You go, girl.
You go, girl.
I mean, I'm saying if any woman who's got both booty and food pretty much has a man at her beck and call. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. So
this is going to be a really odd show today. Anyway, Brennan.
Well, leave it a 5-star review if you're feeling nice.
Yeah,
or if you're just feeling anything, just leave it. Just leave it.
And stay tuned because we've got another great interview coming up with Mike Garcia, folks. You're not going to want to miss this one. Breaking Battlegrounds coming right back. All right, welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds. Our next guest up today, Mike Garcia, is chair of the California State Chapter for America First Policy Institute, which, for those folks who aren't following AFPI, they are doing amazing work across this country. He is a former representative for California's 27th District and a decorated U.S. Navy fighter pilot and businessman. Mike Garcia, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me, Sam. Appreciate it.
So you're working a lot on kind of what I think is one of the real hot topics that Republicans should be taking advantage of right now, which is boys and girls sports and this whole sort of transgender movement, which has really been, deleterious to girls sports across the country. It's just not fair. Tell us a little bit about what you got going on there in California.
Yeah, and I'd say it's heartbreaking to watch in real time, obviously. And those of us who know people who have been victims of this policy realize that the ramifications of this are devastating to our young girls who are in sports, young women who are trying to get scholarships to colleges, et cetera. It's absolutely devastating and heartbreaking for them. Look, this is one of those issues that it's what they would call an 80-20 issue, and I think it actually is more favorable than that in terms of the politics of the issue. Elected officials, candidates running political parties, right? They tend to want to look for issues that they know at least 80% of their constituents or their voters will resonate with, and this is certainly one of those. I would say it's in the mid 90s when you actually go to talk to people on the ground and not look at just polls. But I think on its surface, and it's very similar to the defund the police movement, right? Where when you talk to people in private, they go, "This is insane. I don't know why anyone would support defunding the police." Yet you see elected officials all over the place, especially, in the 2020, 2022 era, supporting the defunding of their local law enforcement. It's absolutely insane, but they're still running on these issues. This is a very similar topic where I would say 95% of the American people do not want males, dudes, competing against females in sports. It's absolutely unprecedented in the history of mankind, frankly, and it's absolutely deleterious to women. So. This is something that we've got to put a bright light on. Unfortunately, we do have elected officials and candidates running on this issue. And when it comes down to is it's a fear-based behavior pattern that they're implementing here, rather than a principle-based. They know the difference between right and wrong. They know the difference between fair and unfair. Yet they're scared of a very small demographic or a very small group of people that will come protest them at a town hall or at a city council meeting, whatever it is, a school board meeting. They're scared of those folks, and rather than explaining to those folks, "Hey, you're wrong. This is unfair towards girls and women in sports," and in fact, it's unconstitutional because we have a little provision called Title IX that was signed into federal law, I believe, back in 1972, which actually protected women in collegiate athletic organizations, college sports, et cetera. It also protected, women who were pregnant in college against certain abuses and discriminatory behavior. So what they've been proposing and actually implementing is unfair. It's unjust, and in our opinion, at America First Policy Institute, we believe this is unconstitutional on its face.
Well, and some of the proponents of the access for these transgender boys in girls' sports, or transgender, I don't know how we phrase that, biological boys playing in girls' sports, they're saying, well, if they take these hormones and they take these treatments, that levels the playing field. But the reality is that's not true. That playing field is never going to be level literally from birth, because physiologically there's just a massive difference between boys and girls.
Yeah, it doesn't shrink your skeleton, right? It doesn't make you 2 to 4 inches shorter. It doesn't narrow your shoulder width by several inches and shorten your arms. So in most most athletics, it's about speed, it's about velocity, it's about momentum, or a moment arm coming out of your arm or a leg. The physics of those things don't change because of the hormones. I don't understand the physics behind what the hormones do specifically to you emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, but I do know that from a physics perspective, they don't alter you to the point where it's leveling the playing field. So it's absolutely ludicrous. So they've created effectively, confusion in this issue to the point where even conservatives don't know how to address this. There are two sexes. There are males and there are females. And if you want to continue to play sports, then you play at the level that is commensurate with your skill set. And I'm sorry, I wanted to play, D1 baseball myself, but I got to the point where I wasn't good enough. And so I didn't go look for leagues, at that level to go compete in against women or other folks. I resigned myself to the fact that maybe my baseball career was over. And same thing with these folks playing basketball and other sports. And, they just need to, be comfortable with the fact that they were athletes, they did well, but you don't need to go invent new leagues for yourself and compete against women in order to prove that.
No, and I was glad earlier you were talking about sort of the frankly, the cowardice on the left and the Democrat Party with this issue and others like defund the police, because they are responding to really a tiny fraction of the population that's very loud, very aggressive, and they're leaving the majority behind. As you said, this is an 80-20 issue, or maybe a 90+10 issue. This is an issue that, frankly, every person of honest thought looks at and just says, this isn't fair, this isn't right.
But when you walk the halls of
by these folks.
That's right. And they're not being bullied by them per se, but they're weak-kneed, right? They lack the backbone to do what's right. And that's fundamentally at the core of the problem right now of I would say the Democrat candidates, the Democrat incumbents. They lack the backbone to do what's right? They lack the backbone to break from their party ranks. You can line up, Hakeem Jeffries and the entire Democrat Party right now behind one tree on any given issue, regardless of what it is, except for maybe this socialism thing that's starting to creep in and bifurcate the party a little bit because they may be taking it too far. But when you talk to these people in private, and I'm telling you, walk in the halls of Congress, when you talk to these folks, when you're in an elevator with them, and you ask them, you can't honestly believe that having men playing against women in college sports is fair, right? I mean, you see what's happening. This isn't fair, right? They go, no, obviously, Mike, I don't believe that this is fair, but my base expects this of me. And so fundamentally, what it comes down to is two, I'll call it, systemic issues right now. And it's true in both parties to an extent, but it's especially prevalent right now in the Democrat Party. One, it's the fear-based behavior patterns, right? They are running as politicians. They are changing their perspectives and their views on policies to the benefit of whatever is most advantageous of them politically, right? What's going to get the most votes? That's thing one. We need both parties to be acting out of principle, to be anchored in their principles, their policies, their faith, and behave accordingly, vote accordingly, run on those things, right? And if you stay true to those, and then you don't win an election, at least you have your integrity, your honor, and you can sleep well at night. The second phenomena that I think we're seeing, though, especially in the Democrat Party, is the left eats the left. And as we draw more maps to be very blue, very red, but in this case, very blue, and as states sort of shift further and further left, the Californias, the New Yorks of the world, we see it now in New Jersey, states like Virginia even maybe shifting a little bit further left. The left eats the left. Meaning, if you're running in a primary in a blue district, for instance, for Congress, or a blue precinct as a city council member, you're not worried about the Republican or the conservative running against you. You're worried about the progressive that would be running against you. So you are then willing to go to town halls. You're willing to go to round tables and say things that on their face are stupid, frankly, ridiculous, just to get that 0.1 or maybe it's 3% of your base's vote in order to get through the primary. And then when they get through the primary, they're caught in this position where they're like, in some cases on the record saying, I don't actually believe that. We see this with Mikey Sherrill. We see this with Abigail Spanberger, the governors of New Jersey and New York now, respectively. They are more moderate at their hearts, but the problem is they've signed up to these very progressive things. They've run on them in some cases, and they're implementing now very progressive policies because they fear the left. The left consumes the left, and that's the real challenge right now, I think, that the Democrat Party has.
It seems like Republicans should be able to capitalize on that in this election and elections going forward, because you're talking about a lot of issues that are 80-20. I mean, I tend to think this issue obviously is, as you said, it's more than 80-20, the boys and girls sports, but I think you could realistically say the same thing about fraud.
Yep.
I think you could say the same thing about some of the election difficulties that we've had. I think most people would agree it shouldn't take 3 weeks or a month to count votes. There's a lot of things like that we should be capitalizing on. What do we need to do to really highlight some of these issues to voters and draw a line that there's a big difference right now between where our politicians are and what they're voting for and where the Democrats are?
Yeah, I would say another issue is voter ID, right? The fact that 70% of the states right now, I believe, already have a voter ID law in place, which is reasonable. It's not racist. It's not onerous to ask for an ID to go vote when you've got several venues asking you for ID just to enter their premises on a daily basis. So that's another one of those issues. So the question of what do we need to do is we've got to do the hard stuff. Okay, the easy stuff is putting on a social media post, right? You and your 100 followers, and I don't mean you, Sam. I mean the average person or the average elected official with 50,000 followers, right? Most of them are either already supporting that candidate or incumbent, or they're just on their as a follower to see if they're saying anything stupid that they can weaponize against them in the future election. So that's easy to do. Just put a post out. That's the easy stuff. But you're not changing the hearts and minds. You're not bending the arc of an election result in any way. The hard things to do, and this requires the candidates and the incumbents to get out into their communities, have the long town halls, right? My town halls used to be 4 hours long, and I would get these from very far left to very far right. They were always upset. Every vote I took in a very blue district, I would upset 60% of my constituents. But I made sure I went back and took the time to explain to them the why. And that's why I was able to win in a D+7, D+8 district. Candidates and incumbents even need to keep having those conversations. And people of leadership, whether it's leaders and chairs at America First Policy Institute, or it's just folks in their local communities that are on school boards, or they're just part of clubs, they need to get out of their own echo chambers, their own ecosystems. They need to go have conversations with friends, families, and neighbors that may not be politically engaged, but they may just love Trump, or they may just hate Trump, right? And their voting behavior pattern is going to be a function of one of those two things. If that's the case, you have a very a mundane and undereducated voting populace going into this midterm election. When they start hearing about these issues and they start hearing the nuances and the details and the fact that this candidate is actually running on a socialist platform, they do actually want to defund the police. They do actually want men competing against women in sports. And here's the facts and data behind that. That actually does change people's mindsets, and it does change their voting behavior patterns. And so this is the hard work that needs to get done. The bottom line, if you're a Republican running for any office in this country, you don't have the media on your side. You probably don't have social media on your side. There's podcasts and there's favorable conservative outlets that may or may not take the time to support you. But in the end, if you're running for Congress, there's only about 500,000 people that matter, not the whole country. And that requires, very grassroots, hands-on, organic conversation. It's not outreach. These are your people, regardless. They may be Hispanic, they may be Black, they may be Asian, they may be Jewish. Whatever their race, ethnicity, and religion are, they are your constituents. So don't call it an outreach program to the Hispanic community. They're Americans. Talk to them as such, but do that hard work, and don't just get on a plane back and forth to D.C. and expect to win elections over and over again. That's what the party needs to realize, and it's candidates. It's individual accountability.
Amen to everything you just said right there. We have about a minute and a half left. I want to throw one thing at you from what you're just saying. In working a lot of races over the years, one of the things I did with a new kid coming into politics, they're fresh out of college or maybe fresh out of high school, one of the first jobs I'd always give them is do some of the door knocking, the conversations at the doors, because that's really hard. But if you can get over that first step and that fear, boy, those doors then start opening other doors, right? That's
right. And it teaches you a new vernacular, right? Not everyone that you talk to is a Lincoln Club member. Not everyone you talk to is a Women Republican Federated member, right? They may be conservative, but they may not like you. They may not want to talk to you about politics. But if you can crack that code and sort of create that Rosetta Stone on how do I talk to the middle third? And there are still liberals who aren't crazy, who are registered as Democrats, who will vote for a Republican if they're not crazy, right? So that door knocking and that level of grassroots conversation is exactly what I'm talking about, Sam. That's a fantastic thing that you were instilling in those young folks.
So, Mike, how do people stay in touch with you and all the work you and AFPI are doing right now?
Yeah, well, follow us if you just put AFPI in the search engines, AFPI California in the search engines on all social media. I'm at Mike Garcia, 1776 myself. AFPI is a wonderful organization that is multifaceted. It does litigation in some cases, which is the only way you get successes in states like California. But it also is driving the policy. I think something like 75-80% of the executive orders signed by the White House were either written or derivatives of what was written by AFPI. So it's a very important organization right now. It's doing God's work right now. It's saving the country, and we certainly need all the help we can get, and we need all hands on deck for it.
I would say absolutely all of that, and I would add that I think AFPI is filling a role that's been needed for quite some time for a new age think tank, a new age policy program on the right that encompasses the full broad spectrum of America First and all the people behind it.
Well said, sir. It's an honor to be a part of it, and thank you for the opportunity.
Well, and thank you for joining us on Breaking Battlegrounds. We look forward to having you back here again in the near future, and thank you for the work you're doing. We appreciate it.
Anytime. God bless.
Hi, kids. Remember your dreams? All the future plans you made? Has private student loan debt destroyed those dreams? It doesn't have to. Why Refi refinances distressed or defaulted private student loans that others won't touch. They can reduce your payment. You can get your life back. And they don't even care what your credit score is. Don't let private student loan debt ruin your life. Call Y-Refi today. Let's go!
All right, welcome to Breaking Bounds. Folks, if you're hearing this, you're already downloading and listening to our podcast, and you just need to take that last step and leave us that 5-star review. It really makes a big difference in how many people get access to this program and our ability to stay on air and on your pods and deliver this content every single week. So please take that extra 10 seconds and do that right now. The ladies are very proud of me for actually bringing that in here.
And Lou Perez, our regular guest, will take offense if you don't give us a 5-star review. Is that right, Lou?
That's right. Anything below 5, and I will hunt you down. And
yeah,
thank you, Lou. Thank you.
Yeah, if you get anything less than a 5, and Lou is going to personally roast you at your door in front of your family. That's how this is going to work, folks.
That's right. Call the police. Get ready. I'm coming.
And that's why we've got Lou Perez. Welcome back to the show. Comedian, producer, author of That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore, which, man...
It's a great thing. And by the way, you've been following the Sophie Cunningham thing, right, Lou?
Oh, sure have.
You know, when you wrote that book, that This Joke Isn't Funny Anymore, you were really seeing the height of the woke movement, punishing people for thoughts. Have you been pleasantly surprised at the pushback for Sophie Cunningham just talking common sense, and USA Today now have to trying to backpedal? I mean, it's been amazing watching people coming out and supporting her on this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of the WNBA. And, at some point, I'll find out the names of the teams and what sport they play. So that's going to be.
Chuck, were you the one that told me about you have a friend who has a betting pattern on the WNBA?
Yeah.
You should probably tell that story because that is kind of.
I'll go tell it next time.
All right.
Yeah. Well, I will say this. I mean, one of the great things I do like that Sophie Cunningham is out with her beliefs and she's not apologizing for them, which I think is great. But I think it also just highlights the reality of, according to people who want to see transgender athletes playing girls sports, the WNBA has 0 trans women in the league. So they've outed themselves for being bigots.
One of the no, but it's worse. So one of the women, the WNBA players attacking Sophie Cunningham was pointing to there is a transgender player in the league, but there are no transgender male to females. So that means that the WNBA has a male playing in the league who should, by their own identity and by their own rules, have to try to compete in the NBA.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
No.
Like this stuff is so ridiculous because it all goes in one direction, which is just an FU to society.
Yeah. And it messes and look, it messes things up too for gamblers out there. Because here I am, I'm putting money on WNBA games. I have no idea who's going to win, but you get one transgender woman there, I know where my money's going. So
that's going to be the worst betting line in history.
It really was. And you guys are right though. They really should allow it to happen.
Yeah.
Prove your point.
Right.
All right, Brandon, what do we got for Lou today?
All right. So I guess there is a TikTok that discussed the study of ovulatory cycle effects on top earnings by lap dancers we're interested in discussing today.
Well, I'm so happy that you want to discuss that with me. So the algorithm knows me better than I know myself, and it threw this video right in my face, and I went down a rabbit hole. And for those of you out there who aren't scientists like the panel here, basically what they tested was the idea: do strippers earn more money when they're ovulating? And
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the test that they had 18 dancers, they record their menstrual periods, work shifts, and tip earnings for 60 days on a study website. And what they found was the women who were cycling normally, they earned about $335 per 5-hour shift during estrus. And for those of you who don't know, again, we're scientists. You guys don't know this nomenclature. Estrus is a phase of increased female sexual receptivity. selectivity, and attractiveness. So basically, when a woman is ovulating. So they found that when a woman is ovulating, they make more money than the luteal phase, which is right after ovulation, and more money than during menstruation. I did notice that part of the study, there was no inclusion of strippers with PMS, which, I would imagine would be, instead of men willingly giving them money, the women would just be choking the guy and be like, "Give me, you pay for this champagne room." So.
Well, today that may work.
I mean, seriously, like, listen, working in an office environment, you have to watch out for the woman in comfortable pants.
Oh, yeah. Watch out for that face.
Oh, yeah, no, you got to be aware. You got to be sensitive to
So
this.
who did this? So Lou, who did this study? Who decided to do the study of 18 women?
Yeah, so it was out of the Department of Psychology at the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, and I'm actually familiar with one of the people who worked on it, Jeffrey Miller, who's a really solid follow on X, and the study came out a while ago. It came out in 2007. I mean, it was new for me, but it came out in 2007, and apparently it hasn't been replicated. No one else has, stepped up and gotten in the strip club and run this experiment again. But based on the findings that they have, I do wonder, what does this say about other workplace environments? Like, is there a sign, like, if you're trying to haggle, if you're in like a business meeting, you might want to step back if the person you're haggling with is ovulating, because you might just give in and just give her anything that she wants.
Women, time your powers.
That makes me wonder, though, if, like, for example, like a woman in sales, like, well, she's ovulating. Does she make more sales? Like, does she get more aggressive with her sales tactic?
When she does personal visits, does she get in more doors than the cold call?
Yeah.
I would bet she does.
We're just ambitious when we ovulate.
Yeah. Well, and something I found funny about the specifics.
Thank God we have women in the studio for this, or we'd be in big trouble, guys.
Exactly.
Yeah. HR, the phone at HR is blowing up right now.
Yeah, and everyone should remember, I do technically still work for a government entity.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sam.
Saying.
And what I found really funny about this was, for one, if you're a guy going to the strip club and then you end up being all bummed out, like, "Oh man, I thought the stripper liked me. Turns out she was just ovulating." So there's that. And then also, obviously we are mammals, we are animals. The women's cycle is very much, because of reproduction. Can you think of a worse place to be putting out there that you are ready to have a baby than a strip club?
No.
Like, those are the dudes that vying for that. It's like, who's daddy? He's the one who made it rain.
I will tell you an interesting story. I have a friend. She manages the day club pools in Vegas, and she was pregnant 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and I said, "Well, how were the tips?" She goes, "They were the best tips I've ever had." She goes, "The men would come, they would double the tips. They asked them, okay, if I want to get off my feet." She goes, it was really fascinating because the ownership did not want me doing it, but I just collected tips all the time.
She was stripping for two, basically.
She was serving for two. It was interesting.
Yeah, let's just be clear. She wasn't violating any child porn laws.
No.
Really.
Well, Lou Perez, what else are you working on? Anything else exciting? You got a show coming up we can tell folks about?
Yeah, so if you guys are in New York City, July 30th, I have a show called Parental Advisory, which is so on point. We mix stand-up comedy and wine tasting at a place called Some Good Wine in Manhattan. So if you guys follow me on social media, you can be inundated with calls to come out to that show.
And Lou, when you do these shows, do they end up on YouTube so people can watch it if they don't live in New York?
No, but what you guys can do is you could hit me up, and if you want to see me in your city, let me know. And again, if you're not giving us 5 stars, you're going to see me in your city anyway.
All right, threat well taken. Lou Perez, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Always a pleasure.
Have a great day. This is Breaking Battlegrounds. We'll be right back with Amelia Powers, Utah County Commissioner, and we'll talk about the Charlie Kirk trial where that's all taking place. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds. We're so lucky to have with us today short notice. Amelia Powers, she's a Utah County Commissioner. And folks, for those who don't know, Utah County is where the trial is being had regarding the Charlie Kirk murder trial. And we wanted Amelia just to sort of give our audience a little background of how the counties had to prepare for it, because there's more to it than just the trial. The counties had to come up with more money. There's been logistics. Amelia, tell us what's going on.
Yeah, this is for a small county our size. I mean, we're not too small. We're about 750,000 people. But even a medium-sized county like ours, a trial like this has just been astronomical for us. Everything from budget to logistics to just being overwhelmed with PR and media.
So how much more has it increased your budget? And when you have something like this, how does the county find the money for the increased budget?
Yeah, we still don't even know the full impact on the increased budget. I'll give you a little bit of perspective. Just the security for the 5 days of pretrial hearings earlier this month was $120,000. That was just the sheriff's department's bill for security. Then you add to that the prosecution that is very in-depth. And then, of course, this defense is just costing us practically an arm and a leg.
And so our audience knows, he has a public defender, correct?
Yes, yeah. The judge ruled that he needed a public defender.
So when people get a public defender in a case like this, is there a cap on what they can spend, or they just submit what they submit?
So usually there is a cap. This is what's interesting about this one, and this is going to throw our budget through a huge loop. Typically, there is a cap. We have a standard contract, a standard agreement that has a cap on it. And we have 3 other aggravated murder trials in the county right now, and all 3 of those have a cap on them. That's standard. Mm-hmm. In this case, we could not find a defense counsel that was willing to take the case with a cap. So we had a ruling from a judge that we had to find counsel. We ended up having to sign one without a cap in this case.
As painful as that is, I got to say, Amelia, I kind of agree with that from the perspective of the attorney or from the court, because in this case, if there is anything that the defense is not allowed to do,
it can be appealed.
It can be appealed, but also it becomes grounds for more speculation like we've seen, which is way out there.
So my question is, though, he doesn't have a cap. You have this security bill, and it's just beginning, right?
Yeah.
How does a county commission pay the bills at the end of this?
What's the county budget to start with?
Yeah, what's the budget to start with, and how do you pay for it? Is this going to go over budget?
Yeah, so our property tax levy, which this is all general fund, our property tax levy is about $70 million. And right now, the defense is sitting at about $600,000. Prosecution, we don't have an exact number on that because it's in part of our prosecutor's department, but my guess is it's probably around $300,000-$400,000 plus. Security is we spent $280,000 last year just in the last 3 months of the year on this. The week before was $120,000. We're probably sitting at around 1.3 million. We're probably looking at around 2 to 2.5 million a year through 2028. And so
collectively, you're looking at like 5 to 10% of your annual budget.
Correct. 5 to 10%. So for example, if we had to raise taxes to pay for this, that's a 5 to 10% property tax increase to pay for just this trial. So here's the complicating factor. We now have the other 3 aggravated murder trials where they're coming forward and saying, well, they didn't get a cap. Why do we?
Right.
And so so we've got even additional fees and battles because of this one trial. No, with that said, I do agree with you that this is a unique case. We're paying for private security for the attorneys in this case that we're not paying in the other ones because the other attorneys don't get death threats from the public.
Right.
These guys do.
How many, if you can share it, how many death threats has the defense counsel gotten?
I don't have that exact number. I just know that there's been enough credible threats that we find credible that we are paying for security for them and their firm.
What has been a surprise to you during this whole process that you're just like, I just can't believe this type of thing is happening?
I would say there's 2 things. One of the biggest surprises for me is that every time some random blogger decides to come up with a theory, the deluge of public information requests that we get
Oh, my goodness.
is
Grief.
ridiculous. And then, of course, we have to deny them because it's an ongoing trial. We can't give out trial information during an ongoing trial. And then the accusations that we're trying to hide something or part of a conspiracy. I mean, just that has been, it's costing us thousands and thousands of dollars.
In terms of, I mean, another area of your budget, in terms of your response to FOIAs and PRR, have you had to bring on another person? I mean, with that kind of volume,
Yes, we had to bring on an additional full-time staffer just to handle with the FOIA requests. The second thing that's been surprising to me is the amount of security that we've had to put at the courthouse. So during the pretrial, for example, we had to have SWAT on scene. We actually had a high school cheer competition going on at our convention center. Our convention center is across the street from the courthouse.
Oh my gosh.
We had to put SWAT on the roof of the convention center where the high school cheerleaders were, because that was the best vantage point that they had for security for the courthouse. And the logistics of trying to keep SWAT separate from the high school cheerleaders it's just insane.
I mean, this is crazy stuff. Are there any sources like state or federal grant or aid that you guys can or are reaching out to try to get to offset some of this? Because it seems like there frankly ought to be for this kind of situation. We deal with this here in Arizona because I work with Maricopa County. You have a lot of tiny, tiny counties. A lot of laws get passed that are fine for us in Maricopa and fine for Pima. Mm-hmm. But those small counties, it's almost impossible. It's just budget breaking stuff for them. Are there sources you guys can reach out to?
So here's the interesting thing. Yes and no. We fall in that really interesting little medium size. If we were 1.5 million, our budget would be big enough that this would be a small enough percentage.
Right.
That it would be a pain, but we could do it. But the problem is we're not small enough to qualify for the rural funds. Oh. So we actually don't qualify for the rural funds, but we're small enough. We did ask the state legislature for $3 million to help us. They gave us $1. So we asked for 3, we got 1. For the federal government, I wanted to put together a grant ask for the FBI, and I wanted to ask for $8 million that we would get over the course of 3 years. That's not even 100% of the case.
No, but that's
probably,
I was going to say that's pretty reasonable.
Right. And that we have not received. We have not received that. I mean, I'm not going to give up hope, but I've asked for $8 million. We got 1 from the state, and we got 1 from the state, and then they were like, so you're good, right? We were like, yeah, no. We'll come back again and ask again next year.
Folks, just so you know, Utah's discretionary state-controlled budget is $11.8 billion. So,
right.
So you think
so they gave us $1 million.
$1 million is literally just like, you're a pest, go away.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, gee, thanks, Dad. Can I have allowance next month, too? And then what's even worse, though, is that Tyler Robinson is a Washington County resident.
Right.
He drove 3.5 hours to commit murder and then drove 3.5 hours home, and my citizens are paying for it. I was like, how does this make sense? How is this fair?
Oh, my gosh.
So we'll keep fighting.
Well, we appreciate you joining us today, and thank you for coming on last minute. I've been wanting to have you on. We're with Amelia Powers, Utah County Commissioner. This is where the trial on Charlie Kirk's assassination is being held. Last question. What is a timeline? What's the best case scenario you see this trial being over?
My best case scenario, so we're still in pretrial right now. I think and the judge said around September-ish he'll decide on pretrial motions. My guess is the trial starts in 2027 and runs through probably mid-year 2028. My gosh. We're living this for the next 2.5 years.
Well, with no caps on the defense, Amelia, I'm sorry to suggest that I think you may be optimistic there, and this sounds like one that's going to be going well into 29.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Well, Amelia, thank you for coming on and giving us a little enlightening on what's going on there. And, folks, Utah State's pretty cheap, obviously, but thanks for joining us today, Amelia.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Folks, this is Breaking Battlegrounds. You can listen to us on Substack, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, 5-star review. If not, forget what I told you. On behalf of Sam, Brendan, Jeremy, Sydney, and myself and our guests today, thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend.